All right, so when we talk about China's great cuisines, what pops into your head? Fiery Sichuan, right? Or maybe elegant Cantonese. But what about the quiet one, the one they call the Mountain Hermit? That's what we're diving into today. Anhui Cuisine. It's this incredible style of cooking that was literally born from rugged mountains and ancient forests. It's a taste of the wild.
So, to really get what this cuisine is all about, we've got to start with a bit of a puzzle. Here it is. How on earth can a fish that's famous for being, well, stinky, become one of the most celebrated delicacies out there? I mean, seriously, the answer to that question, it pretty much unlocks the entire genius of Anhui cooking.
And that hermit sage idea? It's the perfect way to think about this food's whole philosophy. If Sichuan cuisine is that loud, colorful storyteller at the market, grabbing your attention with all this spice and flair, then Anhui cuisine, it's the wise hermit living up in the mountains. It's quiet. It's reserved. It's all about listening to what the ingredients themselves have to say and just letting their natural, pure flavors shine.
Okay, so to get those pure, natural flavors, you have to go right to the source. And the source here wasn't some bustling city with big markets. Nope, this cuisine was shaped by the rugged, almost isolating geography of the Huangshan, the Yellow Mountains. And what that means is that the pantry for these chefs, it wasn't farmed, it was foraged. So, what exactly is in this foraged pantry? Well, just imagine. You've got these deep, earthy flavors from wild fungi like black wood ear and amazing shiitake mushrooms. You've got that crisp, seasonal freshness from tender bamboo shoots harvested at just the right time. And the protein? Forget about farms. We're talking wild game, like stone frogs found in mountain caves, or fresh mandarin fish and turtles pulled straight out of the local rivers. It's incredible.
And really, it all boils down to the landscape. I mean, the terrain there is so steep and rocky, it made traditional farming next to impossible. So what do? You adapt. And that's exactly what they did. This forced a total reliance on whatever the wilderness could offer up, creating a cuisine that is just fundamentally tied to the forest.
All right, so you've got all these amazing, potent, wild ingredients. Now what? How do you actually cook them? Well, the whole philosophy isn't to blast them with spices or mask their flavor. Not at all. It's about coaxing out their deepest, truest essence. And to do that, you need a very specific approach, something we could call the art of restraint.
Probably the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to compare it to something we all know, like fiery Sichuan cooking. It's a tale of two kitchens, really, where Sichuan is all about that intense high heat, that quick stir-fry, those bold layered spices that hit you. Anhui is the complete opposite. It's all about gentle heat, slow cooking, and restraint. The entire goal is to preserve the original taste of the ingredients, not to cover it up with a ton of seasoning.
So the holy trinity of Anhui cooking techniques, we're talking braising, stewing, and steaming. See a pattern? They're all about taking your time, using low and slow heat. And this is just perfect for tenderizing those tougher cuts of wild game and letting all those incredible flavors slowly meld together. What you won't see a lot of is stir-frying. Why? It's just too fast, too aggressive for this gentle, patient style of cooking.
But then, where does that signature flavor come from if it's not from tons of spices? Well, there are a couple of secrets. First, they use a lot of local rapeseed oil, which gives dishes this distinct, incredible richness. And second, Genoa-style ham. This stuff is a game changer. It's used constantly, but not always as the star of the show. It's often used as a seasoning, almost like a secret weapon, to build this deep, savory umami backbone in all those soups and stews.
Okay, so now that we've got the philosophy down, let's talk about the icons, the greatest hits. Because these dishes, they aren't just food on a plate. They are literally edible stories about the region's history, its geography, and the sheer ingenuity of its people.
And we have to start with the most famous, or maybe infamous of them all, stinky mandarin fish. Yeah, you heard that right. And look, the name is meant to be a little provocative, but let's be clear. The stink here isn't what you're probably thinking. This isn't about rot. It's the unique aroma that comes from a very controlled, light fermentation. And that process is what completely transforms the fish's flavor and texture into something, well, something amazing.
So how did this stinky delicacy even come to be? Well, it all started out of necessity. It was a simple preservation technique. See, fishermen would catch these beautiful fish, salt them down, and pack them in wooden barrels for the long, slow journey up into the mountains. And over those few days of travel, a totally natural fermentation would start to happen. That's where the signature smell comes from. But it also did something incredible to the fish. It firmed up the flesh and created all these rich amino acids. So by the time it got to the mountain kitchens, chefs would braise it with some aromatics, and, like magic, that pungent aroma would transform into this deep, savory, and unbelievably complex flavor.
So the bottom line here is that this was no accident, not even close. It was a brilliant, practical solution to a huge geographical problem: how to get fresh fish into the remote mountains. Anhui's most famous dish exists because of those mountains. It's just pure, unadulterated ingenuity born from necessity.
All right, another absolute icon is a dish called Li Hengzang Hotchpotch, and the story behind this one is fantastic. It's named after a Qing dynasty official who was hosting a big banquet over in the United States. And, as the story goes, the kitchen was running low on food. Panic. So he just told his chefs, hey, throw everything you have left into one big pot. And they did. Sea cucumber, ham, chicken, mushrooms, the whole shebang. And the result? This incredibly complex, hearty stew that became an instant classic. It just perfectly embodies that spirit of taking whatever treasures you have on hand and making something amazing out of them.
So, you might be wondering, if this cuisine is so unique and has all these amazing stories, why isn't it as famous as, say, Cantonese or Sichuan? It's a great question. Let's take a look at its journey from being this hearty mountain food to finally getting its moment on the world stage.
Yeah, there are a few pretty clear reasons for that. First off, Anhui is a landlocked province, which has always limited its global reach. Unlike coastal provinces like Guangdong or Fujian, it just doesn't have a huge international diaspora, communities of people who moved abroad and took their food with them. And you have to remember, at its heart, this food started as hearty, practical peasant food for people in the mountains. And that kind of cooking often takes a lot longer to get recognized as a great cuisine.
But then, a huge game changer happened. Back in 2012, this incredible documentary series called A Bite of China came out, and it was a sensation. It showed the entire world these incredible transformations happening in Anhui kitchens. I'm talking everything from fermenting this wild-looking hairy tofu to pressing local rapeseed oil. And just like that, the hermit came out of the mountains and stepped right into the global spotlight, and everyone got to see its complex, fascinating character.
And speaking of its character, part of it is revealed in this one number, 63.1%. Now, what on earth could that mean? Well, that's the percentage of Anhui dishes that a recent study classified as pro-inflammatory. The kinds of foods that can contribute to inflammation. And get this, it's the highest percentage of all 8 great Chinese cuisines. But it makes perfect sense, right? It links directly back to its identity. That heavy use of rich oil and salty cured ham, that's what creates the satisfying, hearty fuel you would absolutely need for a life of hard labor up in the mountains. It's survival food perfected. And really, when you strip it all away, that's what Anhui cuisine is. It is so much more than just food. It's a direct, edible link to the landscape itself and to the people who figure out how to thrive there. Every single dish tells a story of the mountains, the rivers, and the incredibly resourceful spirit of the Anhui people. Which kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. We live in a world that's pretty much obsessed with fast flavors and intense, in-your-face sensations. So, what can we learn from a cuisine that does the exact opposite? A cuisine that takes its time. A cuisine that's built on patience, on slow transformations, and on the quiet, deep flavors that you can only find in the wild.